If you haven't heard, Dr. Dre is under fire. Apparently, his 38-year-old daughter, who is the daughter of his ex-wife, Lisa Johnson, his eldest daughter, Latoya Young, says she's homeless and has been living out of a rental car that is costing her $2,300 a week. Now, how has she been handling and dealing with herself? Well, she's been, doing DoorDash and Uber Eats. She's been doing other side jobs, like working in a warehouse for about $15 an hour. But she says that the billionaire producer has not been there for her for the past 18 months. Now, she did admit to the fact that she had received in the past, money to pay for her rent, an allowance, but that all ended in the beginning of 2020. Now, part of the reason that she believes that Dr. Dre, her dad, has stopped giving her money is simply because she talks to the media and that she talks about things that her dad doesn't want her to talk about. As a result, she feels like she's being punished and that she can't communicate with her father, and that the only way to communicate with him is to go through his people. Now, I wanted to bring this issue up, and I want to get the insight of my panelists tonight, because we're asking the question: when do you stop taking care of your child? When does this growth, this stage of growth begins? And I thought this is interesting because there's still a lot of unanswered questions, Dr. Carter, when it comes to Latoya Young and some of the trials that she has been suffering from. She is a mother of 4. The 4 children do not live with her in the car. They do live with family and friends. I don't know what the relationship has been between her mother and her, and why her mother, Lisa Johnson, has allowed her to live in a car. But see, this is a 38-year-old woman. So I'm trying to understand, is this a situation of arrested development? Is this a situation where a child is not ready to move on, or take it to the next level? What are we seeing right here in dealing with this situation, and what can we glean from it?
Well, I will say this: I'm a child of the family, so this is something that I think has been a conversation in my family about when you're too enmeshed with your children and when is enough. I knew at a young age that there was going to be a time when my mother would say no, but I also knew that if I fell on hard times, that I could go home. I still know that, right? I know that I can do that with my parents. But that said, it's hard, being an outsider looking in. We don't know, as you said, all the ins and outs of their relationship. Maybe it's a strained relationship, at least from some of the things she said. It appears to be that way. But I also think, many of us want to sort of armchair psychologize this family and tell these people what they should be like. And most of us are only saying this because we know that Dr. Dre is a billionaire, and we say, well, he has it. He can do it. He can take care of her. Yes, he can. He can take care of all of us and then some, right? But what should do as a parent is something separate. I mean, as you know, we are talking about a 38-year-old woman. We don't know what her circumstances are. We don't know why this has changed, right? And so I feel uncomfortable saying what Dr. Dre or any other parent ought to be doing for their grown child. I know, at least for me, I think the expectation was, I'm going to put you in the best position I can to be able to care for yourself. And if it comes to a time when you cannot, because of something, right, an act of God, job loss, or some traumatic event, then yes, you can rely on family. But that's my family. I can't say what this looks like for other people. And I also know that my mother had very clear boundaries around what was acceptable and what was allowed. If I'm a substance abuser and other things, I am absolutely not allowed in her home. I'm not coming to her home. That was made very clear to me. So there are limits that I think parents can put on their children, regardless of age, particularly once they are adults, about what is acceptable behavior. I think that's true for any person, right? Boundaries are always good, and you don't have to explain to people why you put those boundaries there, just that you have. So I'm not going to say whether he should be doing something for his daughter or not. I think it's an unfortunate circumstance, and I have a lot of empathy for her current circumstances, because no one should be housing insecure. No one, whether your parents are billionaires or not.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Dr. Carter. I want to bring Brother Michael. What's your take on this? Because something that Dr. Carter said that I think that is a big message that is often in the Black community, at least in my household as well. I could be wrong, Brother Michael, on your end. I remember my dad, he probably said, well, I didn't say it quite like that. Yes, you did, Dad. You told me when I was 18 years old, I better hit the road, man. You got to get up out of here. Now, that has been a part of our culture for a very long time, that you get to quote unquote adult age, and next thing you know, your parents are saying, all right, like baby mother bird, all right, you got to go out there and fly. Is it time for us to revisit that culture and say, maybe that's not the right move in this day and time? Maybe I should let my daughter stick around. Maybe I should let my son stick around a little bit longer till they complete college and things. Is that the right narrative or the right cultural point that we need to be following at this point, Brother Michael?
Pandemic, it throws things off, and the rate of rent is skyrocketing. The price of homes is skyrocketing. The price of new cars is skyrocketing. The price of used cars is skyrocketing. The price of rental cars is skyrocketing. So I think right now, I mean, this is a wild card, right? What we're going through right now is a wild card. But when we look, not knowing all the details here of their situation, but just looking at the story from the Daily Mail and the Root.com, she was getting assistance from her father up until like 18 months ago or so.
Right.
She works at a warehouse. She makes $15 an hour. She also does Uber Eats and DoorDash. Okay.
Right.
She's homeless, living in a rental car. Right. She said it's an SUV that costs $2,300 for 3 weeks, and she only paid for 1 week. Okay. If you don't pay after a certain amount of time, they're going to report that car stolen, and you're going to be arrested in that car. So in a situation like this, luckily her 4 kids are not with her in that SUV. Okay. Luckily they're staying somewhere else. But this is like a dire situation. This is from what I understand of this situation, not having talked to Dr. Dre, not having talked to her, but what from my understanding of the situation is not a situation where it appears where he's giving her money right now and she just keeps blowing it and didn't pay the rent. You know what I mean? It's not like a situation where she got money and she blew it on something else and didn't pay the rent and then got evicted. Okay, she's in the car. So in a situation like this, I don't know what the relationship is like. Apparently, she hasn't talked to him in a number of months or possibly years. My daughter's 4. If my daughter was 38 in a situation like this, and I was in a situation to help her, whether we're on speaking terms or not, I don't want my daughter homeless. Okay, I don't want my daughter homeless. I don't want my daughter in a situation like this, because if something tragic happens to her,
yeah,
he's gonna have to live with that.
Yep, there it is. There it is. Kelly, what's your take on this?
I was split when I first saw it, because on one hand, you're almost 40 and it doesn't seem like you have your stuff together as a mother, as an adult, as someone in this world who, by all accounts is of sound mind and body and is able. But on the other hand, let's be real. Dr. Dre does not have the best track record when it comes to his treatment of Black women, specifically those in his family or those he brings in as his family, being a wife, being a girlfriend, what have you. So my initial take on it is that it's none of my business, because it's literally not my business. But if we're going to use it as a conversation piece, it is interesting to see how many people or which people are leaning towards the notion of my baby is my baby and they're going to be good regardless, and the whole kicking you out of the nest come hell or high water. I feel like the latter is more of a Black American thing, because when I talk to and when my friends who are Black people but of different cultures, it is normal to stay home. until you are about to get married or you are completely stable enough to become independent. But in saying that, that does not mean you don't have responsibilities at home. So it to me, there feels like a disconnect in that conversation where it's like, oh, is he going to just take care of her or whatever? Or is she just going to be out on her own? There's nuances to this. And in the real world, there's real nuances to it. So like if you're living at home and you're an adult, that doesn't mean you don't pay bills. That doesn't mean you're not responsible for the home. It's just, the home's just not in your name. So more or less, it's like an apartment, but your parents own it. That's how I've always seen it. And that's how people I know who are in that situation see it, because that's how it's being treated. But it's a collective effort to keep the home. So again, I'm split. At the end of the day, it's none of my business, but I wish her well.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just 1 moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.